Selection Guide. Overall strategy. This training only provides practical guidance for selecting the appropriate PPE for general circumstances in which use and handling of chemicals are involved. For specific cases, the employer shall comply with the requirements specified in the relevant legislation and code of practices. Assessment and selection of suitable PPE are based on the risk assessment of the dangerous chemicals or chemical operations. The selection process should start off by considering which category of PPE is required. In this respect, how the dangerous chemical enters into the human body, that is, route of entry, is a major consideration. In a workplace where chemical operation is conducted or where the environment is likely contaminated by dangerous chemicals, eating, drinking, and smoking should be prohibited, and a high standard of personal hygiene should be maintained. This can prevent chemicals entering the body by ingestion. In that case, the chemicals may enter the body through inhalation and skin contact. In determining the possible route of entry, the physical form of chemical is a major consideration. Following is a selection guide for suitable category of PPE. Route of entry. If the route of entry is skin contact, the physical form of chemical may be gas or vapor, fumes, aerosol, dust, airborne particulate, liquid, or splashes of liquid. Then the PP required is protective clothing, hand protective gears, foot protective gears, eye and face protective equipment. For if the route of entry is inhalation, then the physical form of chemical may be gas or vapor, fumes, aerosol, dust, airborne particulate, and the PPE required is respiratory protective equipment. Having decided on the category, the configuration and material of the suitable PPE should be selected according to the risk that may be encountered and the level of protection required. Protective clothing. Protective clothing refers to the gear that protects the body or personal clothing from contact with dangerous chemicals and prevents the spread of contamination. This includes aprons, gowns, and overalls. The chemical resistant properties affecting the quality of a protective clothing are impermeability to the chemicals, resistance to degradation of the material due to contact with the chemicals, and ability to prevent leakage of chemicals through pinholes, cuts, edges, or other imperfections in the protective gear. Selection of suitable protective clothing against a dangerous chemical or a chemical operation depends on the risks involved and the protection required. The selected protective clothing should be made of suitable material and in an appropriate form in order to provide protection against the risks involved. For small scale use and handling of chemicals of low risk or where the risks have been controlled to a reasonably low level, protection can be achieved by clothing that prevents contamination of the body or personal clothing inside. This includes gowns and coveralls made of cotton or synthetic material such as nylon or terylene with a water repellent finish. If liquids in large quantities, gases or vapors, aerosol, dust, or potent chemicals are involved, protective clothing which is woven, stitched, or otherwise porous, that is not resistant to permeation, should not be used. For dangerous liquids, strong solvents, oils, and greases, apron or overalls may be used depending on how the chemicals come into contact with the body. The clothing may be made of neoprene or polyurethane coated with nylon or terylene or natural rubber. It should be of sufficient length to prevent dripping of liquid from the clothing into the footwear worn by the user. To protect against splashes of liquid chemicals, liquid splash resistant suit made of butyl rubber, polyvinyl chloride, Viton, or a combination of Viton and butyl rubber or Teflon may be used. Dangerous gases or vapors can be protected against by wearing a vapor-proof suit which is made of suitable material as above. It should be air tested with the manufacturer's test kit before being stored in a protective case. In case of dust, air particulate or fibers, a protective suit made of bonded olefin may provide the necessary protection. Potent chemicals can be protected against by wearing a chemical proof suit, which is a totally encapsulated vapor proof or liquid splash resistant suit and is fed with breathing air. If the chemicals or chemical operation pose explosion or fire risk, the protective clothing should not be liable to increase the possibility of serious burns, such as avoiding those made of synthetic materials that may melt in a fire and thereby causing more serious burns. Protective clothing may be of the reusable or disposable type. It should be noted that the materials mentioned may deteriorate due to the aging effect. The protective clothing should be inspected for signs of damage before wearing and taken off upon exiting the work area. Contaminated clothing should be properly treated or disposed of as appropriate. Problems with the use of protective clothing. Wearing protective clothing may cause discomfort to the wearer due to the perspiration of problem. As far as possible, protective clothing enclosing the parts of the body should be sufficiently ventilated to limit perspiration resulted from use. If this is not possible, it should be equipped with devices that absorb perspiration.